What's up again there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gamer, here to share with you the return episode of my weekly Q&A to help people's questions, where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me, at least over the last, I'd say, week. For this return episode, I was able to get about 5 questions. Now, I did post a little, community post of where you could post your questions, and I did get about 5 questions. So I think that's a good start to kind of get things back into motion. So hopefully if you enjoyed this little return Q&A of mine, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of me on my future videos, as well as I will be giving you guys an update as to when I will be doing my Twitch streams, which I'm going to try to getting back to doing this sometime next week, but I'll be sure to post up more details in the near future. So starting off with the first question coming from Knighted Slayer, and you want to know, what do I think is the most overrated Final Fantasy character and why? Personally, I think the most overrated character is probably Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. I understand his popularity, but when you really look at him as a character in both, character dynamics and actual difficulty as a boss, I think he severely fails. I mean, Sephiroth is clearly one of the easier bosses if you've played the original games. And I even say, even during Crisis Core, I'd say his character is a lot more in depth if you play something like Crisis Core. But I think the problem with how he was projected in 7 was they kept building him, and they took so long to actually reveal his character. And then by the end, he really isn't all that impressive as a villain. But to this day, just like Final Fantasy VII is, very much to some considered to be the most popular and well-known Final Fantasy game, is really due to him and Cloud's popularity. But I just don't see Cloud as being like the apex of all-time greatest Final Fantasy villains. Sure, popular-wise, sure, but certainly he is not the best written, the most dynamic, or even the hardest to actually beat. And I think you really need to have and there's just a number of villains I would definitely pick over him, which is, I do think he's the most overrated. But not a bad character, just I don't think he's all that great. Next question comes from Winter Ghost, and you want to know, what is my most expensive collector's edition? Oh, I actually have to look this one up, but I apologize. I got there's a lot of dogs in my area. But I do believe that the most expensive collector's edition I ever actually got was this one. I think I've talked about this one before, but it was the Final Fantasy 15, I believe, Ultimate Collector's Edition. Now, funny thing about this one is you couldn't really pre-order this from anywhere except the Square shop. And Square had like a press conference where they were revealing like all of their projects that they were going to be showing off to prepare for the release of 15. And this went live like the second that conference went off. And the only place you could get this is on their direct website. You couldn't get this on Amazon or GameStop. They made sure that you had to get it directly from them. And I do believe this was like $280, which I believe makes it about $50 or $30 more than the second most expensive collector's edition, which was like $250. Do I think it was worth $280? I mean, it's alright. The figure was pretty cool. It did come up with like a lot of stuff in here that was not in the other collector's editions. So I think it just depends on who you ask. But yeah, this definitely was the most expensive one that I ended up spending the most on. I'm not sure if I would spend that much on another collector's edition again unless they showed me something very impressive. But yeah, that would probably have to be it. Next question comes from Zach Tarf. You want to know, so since Resident Evil Village now has third-person mode in the Gold Edition, will I see a playthrough in the future? Well, I have been saying for years, the reason I did not play 7 or 8, I don't like to acknowledge those games, is because I do not like the idea of playing Resident Evil as a first-person shooter, which those games are. But given that they apparently are adding a new mode that allows you to play this in third person, which is, the perspective that I prefer to play a Resident Evil game and that's all I asked for. So I can officially say that yes, you will be getting a playthrough of Resident Evil 8 when it comes out in third person. I will be streaming it on Twitch, and I will make sure to keep you guys updated as for when that will happen. So yes, I will be playing it now. Next question comes from my good friend Rain932, and you wanted to know, what are my thoughts on PlayStation and Xbox bringing many of their exclusives to PC? Do you think that this will affect how people will decide to play to what platform to play on? I'm not sure it will affect. I think it just depends on when they want to play. Now, I understand they are bringing some of their exclusives to PC, but that's only after a long period of time. If you want to play like something like the upcoming God of War game, which they just announced when that game will be released, do I anticipate that God of War Ragnarok or God of War 5, as it should be called, do I anticipate that that will eventually get on PC? Sure. Do I anticipate that it'll be on PC in like 6 months to a year? Probably not. So I think that the people who do want to play it immediately will still get it on their consoles. But I think down the road, people who don't have consoles or prefer PC gaming and they don't mind waiting, sure, then you can get it on PC. And I'm personally just not the biggest fan of PC gaming just because of how expensive it is. I mean, the idea of spending 2 or even 3 times as much on a PC than you would on a console to play one video game, and then after a few months you'd actually have to upgrade you'd have to upgrade your computer in order to play future games. It's just not something that I think is for me. I would prefer to buy one console that can play all the games that will be released for that current generation. That's how I've been gaming since as far back as I remember, and that's how I prefer to do my gaming. But I understand that there are some people that prefer PC gaming. That's perfectly fine with them. It's just how I like to play games. And the last question comes from Tyler Gruff. Now this one's a little bit extensive, so stick with me. You want to know, well, this is kind of like a statement more than a question, but now that you are done with your Versus series, how do I feel? Because with some of your videos, not all of them, when you were talking about it, as if you didn't seem to have been enjoying them anymore. Also looking back on how do you feel about your Versus series overall, as for what was your favorite and least favorite episodes of your Versus series. Well, Tyler, I'm not sure when you post this, but I actually did upload a tier list ranking going over all the matchups I did over all 6 seasons. But no, you're not wrong. Certainly by the end of season 6, I didn't enjoy it anymore. The channel, the series had really been in a decline since season 5, and so season 6 was the final attempt to kind of revive it. You have to remember that there was a period of time between seasons where I did take a break just to kind of try to come up with new ideas and kind of just rejuvenate my passion to make those type of videos. But it ended up not paying through, and by season 6, it ended up being the worst performing season I had ever done. There were prior seasons that were getting more attention than my newer seasons, and just like any television show, when your viewership starts to go down, that is a clear sign that you need to stop and work on something else, and that's what happens. Now, I certainly don't regret the 7 years that I spent working on Versus Series matchups. I certainly, had a blast doing them, and just my favorite part was never just the analyzing or the breaking down or the researching. It was always the talking in the comment sections. That was always my favorite part of making those type of videos, and even to this day, I still talk to people that watch some of my older videos. I mean, having over 60 plus matchups that people continue to still watch and comment and actually, like and recommend to other people. I mean, that's, that makes it worth it. Now, I have stated that if there was ever like a big demand for the series to come back, and I mean like a real big demand for the series to come back, I probably would consider doing a season 7. I certainly had a number of ideas and matchup videos and mixtures and collaborations with other YouTubers that I wanted to do, but if the demand isn't there, then I just don't feel the need to go back. And it's been like about 6 months, a little over 6 months since my last matchup, which I would say my last matchup was just Cal Kestis versus Galen Merrick has definitely started to get some major views. So I'm glad that at least that my last matchup video is getting some good attention. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. But heck, I'm at this point not really all that interested in doing any of this type of matches. But heck, that could change in the future if the demand comes back. But overall, I definitely had a fun time doing those videos, and I don't regret my time doing them. So that'll do it for this episode of my weekly Q&A. I want to thank the 5 of you for sending in your questions. And for everybody who's watching, remember, if you have any questions that you want me to answer in next week's episode for next Friday, make sure you type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me roughly before next Wednesday, before I start filming the next episode around noon. And like always, I want to thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.